Hey all, so this is going to be a very strange video, and I've never done something like this before, but I built a big dragon skull for my base for Clueless SMP, and in my creative world, where I first built it, I used replay mod to record me actually going through the process of me building it. So I wanted to share that because I've never done something like this before, and I thought it was really interesting. To start, I worked on getting a color palette, figuring out what kind of blocks I wanted to use, because I wanted this skull to resemble something that's been kind of sitting on the earth for quite a while, so it kind of loses its white color closer to the earth than it does higher up. And then since I've never built something like this before, this like organic thing, what I did was grab a block I knew wasn't going to be in my color palette and kind of just messed around with it, really. I kind of just threw some blocks around, was trying to get the image in my head onto the world, and after a few like trials of errors of trying to do it in a 3D sense, I went back and made a 2D like cutout kind of thing. So that's what I'm doing here, is I'm taking like the cross section of the center of the skull where it's like highest, and then outlining its general shape and then working from there, right? So I tried to fill it in and then tried to learn World Edit to try to figure out how to fill it in World Edit wise. That didn't really work out, so I kind of did it by like layer, which I think there's like a World Edit fill. I don't know though. I haven't. World Edit is very hard to learn when you're not watching tutorials or whatever. I filled it in, and then I started working on where the nostrils, the eyes, and the mouth kind of start and end. And it was kind of difficult with the mouth because I remembered not having a lot of space to work with because I didn't want it to go all the way back. And then I remembered having like teeth or whatever, and I didn't really know how to show that in the build. So I kind of just forgot they existed for a while and started working on trying to make this shape 3D. So here I am trying to get a general like circular-ish shape from the front, and then I'm also trying to use World Edit to copy it to the other side, although you can't really see it. You can see my attempts. But I eventually felt like I had something that I could work with, and then started pulling out the shape to make it this round skullish shape, basically. I don't know what else to describe it as, really. But here's me working on just the side in front of you, trying to get this shape out, and possible working with getting the mouth and the nose like sticking out, since skulls are like, generally skulls are hollow, but they do have that curviness to it when it comes to the way the top part of the jaw meets the bottom part of the jaw and how they kind of overlap each other with the teeth and everything. But I wanted the mouth to be somewhat open, so there was a space between where the two jaws met to show that, hey, this isn't just one solid like piece of bone, right? Here I am filling in the nose to be like, oh hey, this is the central part, and then kind of molding the area around it, trying to get that like curved in shape. And then I'm working on the eye here, and then the top of the skull as well. And honestly, I had a lot of fun. I think I sat down and did this build for at least 2 or 3 hours, and it was super fun. I really enjoyed just trying to make a organic shape. This a huge part of like an actual living creature. Well, dragons aren't actually alive, but like I based it off like different types of animals, trying to make this seem like it's an actual living thing in Minecraft. And I think I did a really good job. And here you can kind of see that I realized that the skull itself was a bit too, the snout was too short, and me trying to figure out how to cut it off to lengthen it. I made a copy in case I really screwed it up, but here's me cutting the nose off and then actually pushing it out a bit more to give it more of a longish nose. And then also it gives me more room to work with this mouth. As I said, I didn't have a lot of space to make the mouth where the two jaws connect, and this gave me plenty of room to actually pull that out a bit more to give it a bit more definition. And then I could also have the nose come out a bit longer so it actually looked like a dragon, because my first skull kind of looked like a T-Rex. I guess could have been like the basis of this. And then I have the somewhat outline of the horns, like a general shape of how I wanted to do that. And then I finished off the back. And then I go in with a different color of concrete and actually take these horns and like fill them out a bit. I wanted them to kind of curve out and then back in, and I was honestly just placing a bunch of blocks and seeing like what it turned out to be, and then shaving it off to see if I actually liked the shape, because I wanted it to go from like a thicker base, like how goat horns kind of are thicker at the base and then they kind of taper in on themselves and curl in. That's kind of what I wanted to happen with this, but it just looked really big and bulky almost the entire way up until I hit that point. So I really did trim it down. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to make this shape look like it was thicker at the base and tapers off into like a point. All of this is so new to me, and I didn't use any like tutorials or any reference images or anything like that, which is, I think is really, it just makes it feel a bit more mine per se. Because I know there's a lot of people on YouTube and stuff who make these organic builds and actually have like a process, and they use reference images, or they've done this so long they know the shapes and stuff that they're using. And I kind of just threw myself into a creative world and just started building with an idea in my head. So seeing this turn out like almost exactly as the image in my head was super cool. I copy and pasted one of the sides and mirrored it for the other to actually make it a full skull. And then I went in, I tried to hollow it out with World Edit, but that didn't really work. That's why I'm like closing in the gaps with a different color of concrete so that I could have World Edit detect what was inside and hollow out the shape for me. It didn't work. I don't know if I was using command right or not. It probably only works for shapes World Edit makes itself. But I wanted it to be hollow, so when I transferred it into a schematic, it used as little material as possible, because I do want to make this my base. I do want to live inside of it, right? So all of this excess concrete on the inside isn't really something that I need, and I don't want to waste more time in survival gathering materials that I'm just not going to use. So I spent a lot of time just kind of manually cutting out all of the weird excess that's kind of just sitting on the inside of the skull, and then lighting it up as well, trying to thin out all the sides to make sure they're all like one block thick. And then here's when I didn't know what I was doing with replay mod, and here's a wall. But I go through, clear out everything, give it some light, and then after this, I believe I start actually using the World Edit paintbrush to actually go through and give it the colors that I picked out earlier. Okay, here's me learning how to use the... I think I was trying to figure out how to... Yeah, I mirrored the inside again, so I didn't have to do it again. That's what I did here. And then I got rid of the... Did some more shaving, got rid of the other concrete that I'm used for trying to hollow it out with World Edit. And then I started with actually my block palette. And I did decide which one I wanted. And there's only, 7 different blocks. And then I learned how to use the World Edit paintbrush. And it actually wasn't that hard. It was actually really cool. Because you won't, with World Edit, if you don't know, you can paint with it. But you can only, you can use masking, basically, and have it only paint a certain block. And since I used only concrete for this base, then I told World Edit only change these blocks, which is really cool. So then I went through, started from the bottom and worked my way up with my palette. It was bone block, and then I used quartz, smooth quartz, and then the new pale oak wood. And then I used concrete powder, then white concrete, and then I finished it off with calcite. Here I did diorite by accident, and I was like, I don't like the because diorite has those edges to them, and it just looked out of place. So then I filled it in with calcite, and then I went in and I manually edited all the white concrete powder that fell, since this is a hollow skull. And then I changed up some of the I blended it a bit more manually, since World Edit uses like a circular brush to go through and color everything. I manually went through, tweaked the different blendings between the different blocks, gave it a bit more shape. And then I had to copy what I did on this side to mirror it to the other side. So I had to copy and paste my my schematic again, basically my thing. And then here's me actually getting the palette for the horns. And I knew I wanted it to be a bit like bone that was really like saturated or oxidized. I don't really know what bone does, but like how horns and stuff are darker in color than the actual skull. So I used like oak and birch and stuff and sand to give it that like old kind of look. And then I used the World Edit paintbrush. But I learned that with the white concrete powder, I went around and added string to the base of all of my horns because I knew sand was going to be on the bottom, so the sand wouldn't like fall. So here's me painting the sand on and actually learning that the string would work. And then I continued up the horn and added the other colors. And I think it turned out really good. I'm not a builder. Like, I don't really build things in Minecraft. I'm more of like the explorer, or like I dabble in PvP and other things. But I don't generally build things. But when I tackled this like project for a base for Clueless SMP, I brought in a lot of the things that I learned from watching other people online builds, like Hermitcraft, and how some of the hermits do organic builds like Pearl and Gem, and like B-dubs and his color palettes, and like just the different like things that I've heard from them over watching their episodes. I kind of subconsciously brought into this build. And this was around the time where Gemini Tay was building her swordfish, which is, I don't know how long ago that was, maybe a month or two, but just her giving that small little tutorial in her episode of building organically, even if she was building a fish and I'm not building a fish, just her talking about it again, and then remembering that Pearl also does organics and talks about it occasionally, really like helped me out with this build. And honestly, I'm really proud of it. It came out so good, and either this episode or this video or the next episode of Clueless SMP will come out, and then you'll get to actually see me build this in survival and actually come to terms with like making this my base, because it is a bit different from what you'll see here in the final image. That's me building my base for Clueless. I hope you enjoyed.